Yes, hello everyone. Welcome back to another video here on Clare with me, Seamus, Brady, our host. For this one, I am joined by Matthew Hurley, the Gaelic Statsman, and nervous and excited Matthew Hurley, of course, with the All-Ireland Hurling Final just around the corner. Matthew, after a long year with the league, but also a very, very tight year, it's safe to say in terms of fixtures, we are here now. The All-Ireland Hurling Final is coming up this weekend. I mean, what on earth are you feeling with the game coming up this weekend? You must be buzzing for it.
Definitely am, yeah. Thanks for having me on again, Seamus. Yeah, I was thinking at the start of the week, will I ever get tickets? And, the ticket scandal going around the country, obviously, with Cork and Clare fans and hurling fans in general. But locally, by hook or by crook, I am going to the game on Sunday. Thank God I am going. So yeah, it's going to be very exciting, obviously. But you just imagine, like, if Cork go on and win it, not disrespecting Clare now, but if Cork go on and win this game, I think Dublin would be a sea of red.
Yeah,
it just would, to be honest with you. To be honest, like, even the predictions and previews, I did it on my own show with Aaron now last night as well. And I wouldn't have been as biased as, say, Dan Casey, as I heard the GA or earlier this week, 7 points. And I was thinking,
7 points. My jaw dropped when he said that. I was literally like, what? 7 points? I was like, mad. But I was like, okay, fair enough. He backs it. Be interesting though. It's brave, like.
Yeah, if you back it, you may as well do it. Like, if you're a confident Cork supporter, you may as well back your own country. But though I've known the Cork hurlers for a long time now, and we haven't won an All-Ireland since 2005. It's 19 years now, edging on 20. This is a big game now. You just had the feeling. I know some people on social media would say that Cork hurlers are having the same mentality as the Mayo footballers, but you cannot just ignore the Mayo footballers in 2021. After that Dublin game, they were ecstatic after it. It was almost like they won the All-Irelands. And they had that kind of feeling, similar enough in the Cork and Limerick game in the semi-final. We just have to make sure, like, Pat Ryan has to make sure the players don't drop the ball in this final. And I don't think they will. I think Pat Ryan is a very astute coach. He would have said to the players, yes, party for Sunday, Monday after the game against Limerick. But then after that, full focus on Clare. And I think that's the main thing out of them. And Brian Lohan, I think Clare and Brian Lohan will be absolutely loving this. Going in as underdogs. They went to the side underdogs in 2013 and won the thing as well. So, and even look at the last few records between the two sides. Cork have lost 4 of the last 5 championship meetings against Clare. And since 2019, they've only beaten Clare once in the championship. And that was 2021 when Patrick Collins saved that shot from Tony Kelly in the last minute. And if Tony Kelly scores that, it would have been 5 defeats out of 5. So, yeah. Like, the onus goes towards Clare this one, but we'll have to see on Sunday, will Cork change the fortunes and ultimately back up that Limerick performance in the semi-final?
Certainly. Well, let's dive right in with it, guys. The All-Ireland Senior Hurling Championship Final of 2024, Cork against Clare in Croke Park. The showpiece event for one of the best sports in the world. A lot of people, I think it's the best, most entertaining sport in the world anyway. It's the showpiece event for the 2024 championship. And don't forget, guys, if you're watching live, just throw it in the comments who you back in, Cork or Clare, and by how much. But yeah, let's dive in with this. So we're going to tackle it team by team, and I'm going to ask you, what is the path to victory for both teams? So let's start with the Rebels. Let's start with Cork. So obviously in the Munster Championship, Cork beaten by Waterford and beaten by Clare in the first 2 games. Now, as a Cork fan yourself, like, what was with the flat start with the Rebels? Because there was a lot expected of them at the start. What do you think was the reasons that they were slow off the mark?
To be honest, I think at the Waterford game, they went into the game thinking that we would win this. And Waterford...
Is that something that is concerning going into a game where everybody's acting like they have it won?
I think that was kind of the attitude of the team at the start of the year, but that has changed now. Because you looked at even the performances against Dublin and Offaly were very, very poor. Maybe that could be a concern as well. But the players would have known the Limerick game was going to be a massive game, and they stuck to the challenge and won that game in the semi-final. But I just think the Waterford game, they looked flat, especially in the first half. The second half actually was an 89% shot accuracy, which I put up on my page as well early on in the year, which was actually really, really good. The first half was 50%. which let them down. There was a few shots that went to Roy. I think Patrick Horgan had a few, Conor Lehan had a few. But ultimately, Pat Ryan changed the team at the start of that Clare game and the second game. He brought in the likes of Ethan Tooby into midfield. He brought in Robert Downey, Owen Downey into the full back line as well. And ultimately, that has improved the team. And to be honest, Cork have nearly stuck with the same team since the Clare game, in all honesty, because Kieran Joyce went off injured the last in the first two games against either Waterford or Clare. They brought in Rob Downey at centre back, and Kieran Joyce can't get back into the team because of that. He's got into midfield. He can't be moved out of midfield. Like Ethan Tooby can't get back into the team despite performing well in 3 games. So, like, Pat Ryan is very, very consistent on his team selection. And ever since that Clare game, we've picked nearly the same team, which is a good sign to see. Obviously, Alan Connolly has been the focal point for the forward line. Brian Hayes has got into the corner and done really, really well there. Declan Dalton and Seamus Hardy have been mainstays in the half-forward line. Conor Lehan started the first game against Waterford, was poured off in that one, hauled off. Then Declan Dalton or Seamus Hardy comes into the team, and they've stayed in the team ever since. Shane Barrett at centre forward, that was a master stroke for Pat Ryan. Ever since the Clare game, he's stuck there, and he's troubled every centre back in the country because of that as well. So he deserves a lot of credit for Pat Ryan, because the first 2 games, you would have argued this is it for Cork. Like, even our good friend Dan said in a TikTok earlier, season over after the loss against Waterford, not just Clare, after the loss against Waterford, he said season over. But these players, they stuck in there, they beat this Limerick team, and with a bit of luck as well, not just performance, with a bit of luck, they got there in the end. They got out of Munster, they got into that game against Offaly, and the rest is history, I suppose, and the rest will be definitely history if they go on and win Sunday, and maybe the first 2 games will be utterly forgotten about if they get over the line.
Certainly, it's definitely going to be, people will forget about that, but I just think it's interesting to look at the Waterford game and to look at a Cork team that were coming in with everybody saying that they were going to win 100%, and Cork did let it kind of get to their heads a bit that day, and Waterford were waiting for them in the long grass and beat them. If you look at Cork's year, they've performed very well against teams that you would consider the top team, and maybe in games where Cork are considered underdogs. But in games where Cork have been considered favourites, they've more or less, with the very, very obvious exception of the Tipperary game, because they really put Tip to bed there. But in the game against Dublin, they were roaring favourites. They were flat. With the game against Offaly, they were roaring favourites. Offaly scored quite a bit against them. In the game against Waterford, roaring favourites, completely flat. So there is a little tendency that in games where Cork have been roaring favourites this year, with the exception of the Tipperary game, that they have come in a bit under the radar. And what I'm saying is against Clare, they cannot do that. They have to, whatever about who's saying who's favourites, doesn't matter a jock. Styles make fights, and Cork have to be very aware that they're a good stylistic matchup for Limerick, in that they have pace all over the pitch, and they can really hurt Limerick in a way that Clare can't. Clare don't have that same pace that Cork have. O'Donnell is the obvious exception, but Cork have like the likes of Shane Kingston off the bench, but Shane Barrett, Alan Connolly, like absolute bullets that can really hurt Limerick in a way that the Clare team doesn't really have that same threat. So, but Clare, like, maybe it won't hurt Clare in the same way, and I think Cork need to bear that in mind. Cork dramatically turned it around though, and what we've seen is when Cork's backs are against the wall this year, they've shown an incredible willingness to fight to the end, not just in the game against Limerick in the Munster Championship and then the subsequent win over Tip, but in the All-Ireland semi-final as well. They outfought Limerick to the end and got the win.
Exactly. I suppose the Waterford game can be used as an example. Definitely, like, Cork dropped the ball in that game, but there were some rumours around the camp. Obviously, we don't know if it's 100% true about the Dublin Offaly game. There was a bug going around the camp. Obviously, only Pat Ryan would know these things, and maybe they would have thought if we go to third gear, if we go to 50, 60%, we should get over the line against Dublin and Offaly. No disrespect to those counties, but Cork had that in their locker, that they knew if you produce maybe half a performance, you get over the line in that one. The aim was Limerick in the semi-final, and they got over the line in that one. But going back to the Clare game as well, to counteract your point, like in the Clare game where the backs were against the wall from a Cork point of view, they stuck to their jobs. They performed brilliantly. And up until that Sean O'Donoghue red card, Clare fans don't want to mention this in this week preview, but the fact of the matter is, up until the Sean O'Donoghue sending off, Cork were leading Patrick Hargett scored a brilliant goal pass here for Quilligan, and Cork were in control of that game. Sean O'Donoghue gets a red card. Clare start to take over after that. And even when Cork were down to 14 men, Patrick Hargett still gets a goal. Rob Downey still gets a goal to make the score respectable. Clare only still beat Cork by 2 points with an extra man on the field. So that has to be talked about as well. But obviously, if there wasn't a bug going around the camp for the Dublin and Offaly games, it is a bit concerning. But we'll have to see what happens on Sunday, definitely. But I think the major cause of concern for Cork going into Sunday is the amount of frees they're conceding, actually. They've averaged a concession of frees 15, and when you look at Clare's record from scoreable frees, they nearly convert 100% nearly every game. Like against Kilkenny was 100%. Against Wexford, they took all their frees except one. Like in their last 2 games, Clare have done really well from the frees, and Cork have got 27 yellow cards in 7 games. So I think the discipline needs to be talked about as well. Cork need to hang on in there. They need to tackle properly as well. They got away with it some cases against Limerick because Aaron Gallan missed some uncharacteristic frees in that one, maybe 1 or 2. You had Limerick converting only 59% of their shots. Cork conceded 49 shots against Limerick. If they concede the same amount as they did against Limerick against Clare, and Clare have the same shot accuracy as they did against Kilkenny, this is out there now, but Clare could have up to 34 scores in the game if that was to happen. So Cork need to, reduce the number of chances for the opposition. They need to stay disciplined in their tackling as well and not take Clare lightly, because Clare are an outstanding team. And I'm sure Pat Ryan and the players would know that. They'd go into this game full head for leather, and we'll see what happens on Sunday. But I think the defence is probably the main issue. Probably something that Clare could get at Cork for, but Cork need to watch it definitely.
Certainly. Joseph Finnegan here says, hope Clare win. However, I feel Corky will end 19 years of hurt. Going over to Clare then and just talking about their journey through. So obviously they've won every game in the Munster Championship bar Limerick. Limerick beat them in the first round of the Munster Championship in a game where Clare threw it away, if we're being honest. And in the Munster final, Clare weren't at 100%. Now, there were moments in that game, like the Nicky Quaid save from Aidan McCarthy, Mark Rogers hitting the post. There were moments in that game where it could have swung Clare's way. And like what it is for Clare is how important, to me anyway, how important is that semi-final win? Because what I've seen is, for example, Dublin on the football side, we struggled to get over a semi-final for so long. So by the time we finally got over a semi-final, we went and won the final, because it was like we got such a kick on from winning the semi-final that, like, yes, we're finally here. We can just give this one a lash. For Clare, they finally got into an All-Ireland Hurling Final. It's their first All-Ireland Hurling Final since 2013 when they won the All-Ireland. So there are only a few players in the team who have won an All-Ireland Hurling Final. But I just wonder, to you, compared to Cork, what have you made of Clare's journey through the Munster Championship and through to the final?
In Munster, to be honest with you, was very, very underwhelming, the performances from a Clare point of view. Yes, against Cork, they brought the intensity in that one and they performed well. Against Limerick, yes, they threw that game away, and that's obvious for anybody to see it. But when you look at the performance from Clare that day, it was very, very concerning as well. Like, both sides were very poor that day. There was drop balls, there was errors that normally you wouldn't associate with Clare and Kilkenny, or Limerick rather. And then the third game against Waterford, like, Waterford could have easily won it. When you look at the 65, like, it was a 65 at the end, captured brilliantly by Eddie D, the photographer. But when he looked at that photo, the umpire didn't know. Literally, he didn't know, did it go over the line or did it not go over the line. If play devil's advocate, if that umpire decided it's a wide ball, Waterford go down the other end and score. Waterford could beat Clare, and Waterford would have been probably deserving of their win that time. I know Clare scored 4 goals, but Waterford scored more scores than them. So it wasn't just Waterford performing well against Cork, but it was against Clare as well. So that was disappointing to see from a Clare point of view. Against Tipperary, it was about getting over the line. They did. So then the Munster final, they were very, very poor. They were very stagnant in many ways. And up until the Peter Duggan goal, Clare didn't really have a foothold in the game. And then, obviously, with Garrett Hagan, he gets that goal, then that Munster final is over and Clare have to push themselves down. But what has impressed me from Clare from then on in the quarter-final and the semi-final, especially against Wexford, and you might say, Rory O'Connor got sent off, it changed the game, whatever. But Clare had to beat what's in front of them, and they had to beat a very good Wexford team performing well this season with the likes of Rory O'Connor, Lee Chin, Conor McDonald, who were all in the top scorers list at the high end of it. And Clare still had to beat them, and they beat them quite comprehensively in that quarter final. I think it was 228 to 119. And then the semi-final, in the first half against Kilkenny, the performance was under par. But then the second half, they had to up the intensity, and they upped it, and they got over the line in the end. So maybe it's a case that Clare are saving their very, very best performance till last. I hope from a Cork fans' point of view that's not the case, but we'll have to see what happens Sunday. It will definitely be the test from a Clare point of view. But somebody pointed out in the comment section of my show last night when I was previewing with Aaron that Clare underperformed in the first two games because Tony Kelly wasn't fully fit and Ryan Taylor wasn't there for the group games, which was an excellent point, to be fair, because like Ryan Taylor came on against Kilkenny and changed the complexion of it. With his intensity, his harassing, his tackling was absolutely brilliant. And Tony Kelly, game by game, has got better in this championship. It might have gone in under the radar in the semi-final against Kilkenny, but he did score 3 points. Like, he scored 3 points from play. It wasn't from frees or anything like that. It was 3 points. So Tony Kelly is performing better as the championship is going on. The frees they're taking is better as the championship goes on as well. They've only missed one in the last 2 games, which is very impressive. Compare that to the Munster Championship campaign at Clare. Were very poor over the frees. It wasn't like the league campaign where they won it against Kilkenny. But then, ever since the quarterfinal, they've got better and better and better. So it might be leading to an absolutely brilliant performance on Sunday. I'm sure it will. Win, lose or draw, Clare will go out full hell for leather on Sunday. But like, it will be very interesting to see who will be on the frees first of all. Will it be Aidan McCarthy? Will it be Mark Rogers? Both of them very well on frees in general. Tony Kelly usually does well on the long frees as well. So yeah, it should be very interesting. And Shane O'Donnell's role as well hasn't scored much this championship, but in terms of his assist or his general play, he's been absolutely outstanding in that full forward line. So should be very interesting to see how Clare perform in this final on Sunday. I'm expecting that Clare will produce their best performance of the year. They have to on Sunday if they have any chance of toppling Cork.
Certainly. Hurling 1234 here says Cork need to win, be a throwaway after beating Limerick twice. I mean, that would be the feeling. If you've beaten Limerick twice and then don't win the All-Ireland, it would feel a bit bizarre. So that's why all the pressure is on Cork going into this game. And can we just speak about that? How great a position are Clare in? Like, Clare are coming into this final. Say whatever you want about who's favourites and everything like that, and talk about the Cork and Clare game in Munster. But Clare are coming into an All-Ireland final against a team that they beat in the Munster Championship when they didn't have a fully fit Tony Kelly. They didn't have Ryan Taylor. And they're coming in as overwhelming underdogs. All the pressure seems to be on Cork to get over the line. So if I was Brian Lohan, I would be absolutely delighted with the position that his side are in heading into this final.
I'd be thrilled if I was Brian Lohan, because you look at it, like, this is a chance for Clare to shut up the doubters and shock Cork. Like, when you think about it, like, Clare are under no pressure, and the team under no pressure, we've seen it in past few finals, they excel. Like, you look at it, the prime example in football in 2021, Mayo against Tyrone. Mayo were going in, like, thinking, we beat Dublin, okay, we'll win the All-Ireland here. But Tyrone were going in nice and quietly into the final and then catch Mayo on the hop. Look at 2013, for example. Like, I know Clare produced...
Being honest, I don't think they even got Mayo on the hop. I think they were better. They're just better team. Like, if you looked at the other semi-final, like, Dublin, being honest, this is saying this as a dub, we were bang average in 2021. We were there for the taking. Mayo came through Connacht. Remember, it's straight knockout, so they didn't have to go through a quarter-final or anything. Mayo came through Connacht. Suddenly they find themselves in the semi-final against a Dublin side who were there for the taking. Meath nearly beat us in Leinster. Like, do you remember that year when Matthew Costello got the goal? Meath came within 5 points of us in Leinster. We weren't great. And Mayo beat us, but they weren't amazing. And Tyrone put in a 5-star performance against Kerry in the other semi-final. I think you play that game 10 times, Tyrone win it 8 times. Like, and what I noticed was the watching is that the minute that the goal went in, the first goal went in for Tyrone, it was like Mayo were like, oh no. You know what I mean? Here we go. It's happening again. So what I'm saying is, when Cork fans are all in the stadium, if something goes wrong, the Cork fans have a role to play in this game. Don't panic if Clare get on top for a bit, because they will. Clare will get on top for a bit. The chance will go up, banner, like, that's coming. But Cork need to be ready for that.
And to be fair, I know we're going back to the last final beat between the sides, but the drawn game, if you remember that, Seamus, when Clare were excelling in that game, Podge Collins was hitting the ball from nearly everywhere. Tony Heady was doing well in this game. Cork scored 3 goals out of nowhere in the second half, and that was down to the fans driving on the team.
Yeah.
So, and when you looked at it before the 2013 final, there was a lot of expectation that Cork would win that final as well. Like, I know Clare produced a very good performance against Limerick as well, but Clare were just a better team in 2013. You could compare that to the 2021 Tyrone and Mayo edition as well. So this is the same. If like whoever's the better team goes on and wins it, and this is why it's so crucial for Pat Ryan just to ground the players a small. But I'm sure the players will be grounded. Like it's like if Patrick Horgan is not grounded for this game, he's not like when you think about like Patrick Horgan, this is a once in a lifetime opportunity for him to win an All-Ireland medal. Like, he won't get a chance like this again. Honestly, like, I know there's comments about Tony Kenny and Shane O'Donnell not getting that confidence or that belief more than anything and that pressure. But they've won the All-Ireland. They've won it in 2013.
Yeah.
So, is there more pressure on Patrick Horgan to get it? I don't think there's as much pressure on Tony Kelly and Shane O'Donnell and Conor Cleary and John Conlon as there is on Hoggy on Sunday. I really don't. So
I agree.
Yeah, it's going to be a tough one for him to calm it down to get into the zone. Like, you look at the last 2 All-Ireland finals that Hoggy was part of with the Cork team in 2021 and 2013. Cork were beat off the park in both. And like, obviously on the scoreline, on the scoreboard against Limerick. And in 2013, I felt even as a Cork fan, Clare were just better than us that year. And we got 3 goals to get back into the game. Anthony Nash got a goal to get us back into it as well. But Clare were much better than us throughout the whole 140 minutes. I think they were the better team throughout the 2 games, and they ultimately deserved to win it. So Cork have to produce a 100% performance if they are to get over the line. And that is, I know it's obvious and in saying that, but if Cork don't reach the levels that they did do against Limerick, it could be a tough afternoon.
Okay. Acers here says Clare will win the All-Ireland. So what we're going to do for the next bit is, I'm going to keep my eye on the clock here. So right now it's 7 minutes past 7. Very specific. And the reason why is I'm going to give us about 7 minutes each for each team. And what we're going to do is we're going to put ourselves in the position of Pat Ryan. I'm going to put ourselves in the position of Brian Lohan. I'm going to say, if we were setting out this team, what is the path to victory for both of these sides? So if you are Pat Ryan on Sunday, what's the first thing that you're thinking about here? Acers talks about Clare. He says Clare will score goals as Limerick didn't. Is there, like, I think Clare definitely have the goal threat. There's no question about it. Clare have a huge goal threat. Shane O'Donnell, and then players like Ian Galvin as well is always underrated in his goal threat that he's able to provide. Peter Duggan is always good for a goal too. But let's put ourselves in the position of Pat Ryan. What is the first things that we need to nail down to get the win here?
I think the defence is a huge thing.
I think the first thing I'm thinking is I'm saying to O'Donoghue, O'Leary, do not pick up any stupid yellow card in the first 15 minutes. Because that immediately puts them in a position where they could get a red card. We saw how much it affected the game last time.
And then you see how much it affected Owen Downey in the game against Limerick. He was hauled off straight away.
Yeah, he was scared to lay a finger on the Limerick lads, like out of fear of getting a second one.
And that's the thing as well. Like, Cork need to stay disciplined in the first 2 minutes. If they get a yellow card or 2 in the first 10 minutes, Clare would know exactly what to do to run at them. So that is quite concerning in its own right. And even look at the goal scorers there just as a matter of interest of a clear point. Like, you've Aidan McCarthy with 1 goal, you've Mark Rogers with 2, David Fitzgerald with 2. None of them are on 3 goals. None of the scorers are on 3 goals. But there's a lot of spread of goal scorers in that Clare team compared to Cork. Like, Brian Hayes has got 2 goals. If Alan Connolly with 4. So that's a large chunk of it. So Clare arguably have much more goal scoring threats than Cork do. Threats, with an S. So, like, Cork need to clamp down on that. And the matchups as well is going to be massive. Like, for Pat Ryan, I was thinking this last night as well. Kieran Joyce went to Garrett Hakeman in the semi-final. will he do the same thing on Peter Duggan this time? Or will he go on David Fitzgerald in midfield? That's...
Personally, I think, this is just my personal opinion, I think you could put Tim O'Mahony on Duggan. And I think you could put Kieran Joyce on Davy Fitz.
Would you be worried about Tim O'Mahony bombing down the window? He's normally an attacking wing back.
I don't know. I just feel like Joyce was very good on Hegarty. True. But I feel like Duggan plays the game slightly differently to Hegarty. Hegarty, while he is massive, I feel like Duggan, his primary thing that he uses is his size. I feel like you need someone who's able to go toe to toe with him size wise. I think the size difference would be tilted in Duggan's favour. I think if, like, for example, if you're talking Joyce on Hegarty roams around a lot. Like, Hegarty will drop deep, but then he'll move straight into the full forward line. Duggan will hold his position and he'll be a target for puckouts. And I feel like O'Mahony might be a better matchup, or Rob Downey, but do you take Rob Downey out of 6? I don't think so. Who goes on Tony Kelly?
Me and Aaron had this discussion last night and we came up with Rob Downey.
On Tony Kelly?
Yeah. And the more I think about it, the more you're 24 hours after that podcast. And the more I think about it, the more I think it's kind of the right choice to do. Because who else will go on Tony Kelly? I was kind of thinking Niall O'Leary.
Would you back Kieran Joyce? I'd be thinking Kieran Joyce nearly on it.
But then who would you put on Davy Fitz?
Yeah. Clare have lots of threats, man. There's no question about it. Clare have lots of threats. I think I'd be thinking, like, we haven't even said who goes on Shane O'Donnell. Do you put O'Donoghue on him?
For me, Seamus, and a lot of people might disagree with me on this, I'd put Sean O'Donoghue on him.
On Shane O'Donnell?
Yeah. Because Sean O'Donoghue knows how to write up the guy he's on. I just feel that way. I know Aaron Gillane got 10 points, but you somehow have to applaud Aaron Gillane as well, like, for an outstanding performance. Sean O'Donoghue, me and you were at the game. Sean O'Donoghue was in his face throughout the whole game.
Mm-hmm.
And he was just saying, I'm going to make your life hell, man. I am going to make your life hell and make it as difficult as possible. And O'Donoghue will use his strength to get on top of Shane O'Donnell as much as possible. And I think he'd be the right guy for him. And for me, I put probably Owen Downey then on David Reilly. But we'll have to see how it all plays out. But might be an unpopular opinion, but I think Sean will take Shane O'Donnell this Sunday.
Very interesting. And then going the other way, what are the threats? What are the areas that you think Cork can hurt Clare?
The pace, obviously the pace. And I think it's going to be very, very interesting who goes on Shane Barrett in this game.
I think Cork have to get the crowd rocking as well, man. I think a goal inside the first 20 minutes could be gold dust for Cork. Definitely
could be. And I think Barrett is going to be the man to instigate that, not necessarily put the ball in the back of the net, but to run at this Clare defence, because the guy's like a pocket rocket.
Yeah,
and I think he's a big player to get him running. One of the comments actually said David McCarthy will go on Shane Barrett, and they're going to let John Condon roam free as sort of a sweeper role.
I could see that.
I think that would probably be the big thing. But then again, who goes on Decky Dalton?
I feel like Conlon and Dalton would be an interesting matchup. Just looking at them size-wise. And then Dermot Ryan on Shamie Harnedy is a brilliant matchup. Inside, I'm thinking Adam Hogan has to go on whoever Lohan sees as the biggest threat.
This is interesting now, Seamus, because a lot of people think Hoggy as a top scorer, and he's been exceptional all year. But
Ryan Hayes. 100%. Hayes did the damage against him.
That's what Aaron was thinking last night. That was what Aaron was thinking last night as well. I just had the feeling, though, would Hayes beat Hogan for strength and pace-wise?
Size-wise, yes. Like, he's a bigger guy. So I would give him the strength, but pace-wise, Adam Hogan is quick.
Yeah. And then
switching it to Clare as well, because we'll go with this, and then eventually we'll say, what's the path to victory for Cork? What's the path to victory for Clare? So for Clare, who you putting on who? I'm going Adam Hogan on Brian Hayes. I'm going Conor Cleary on Connolly. And I'm going Conor Lean on Patrick Horgan. And then I'm going Dermot Ryan on Shamie Hannity. I'm going with David McInerney on Shane Barrett. Maybe leaving John Conlon as a sweeper, but then who do you put on Decky Dalton?
Would you put Darrell Owen?
Potentially, but will he start? Especially with Ryan Taylor playing so well.
Where would you put Ryan Taylor, actually? Would you put him in midfield or would you put him half forward? He can play anywhere,
forward.
Obviously.
Wing forward. Oh, but you see, Ryan Taylor could match up so well with Dara Fitz.
Yeah.
Ryan Taylor could really match up well with Dara Fitz. I think, like, if you're talking about, like, who plays the game in a very similar way to Dara Fitz, Ryan Taylor is right up there. Like, a very quick, nimble player who has such high IQ for the game. The question is, how fit is Ryan Taylor? Is he up to that? It's a huge ask for him to go in against somebody who, if Cork win the All-Ireland, I personally think Dara Fitz is a great shot at winning Hurler of the Year.
I absolutely agree. He scored 22 points this year from midfield, from play.
Yeah.
He's a big player. Yeah. And I've said this to you and Aaron for years, Seamus. I think he is our most talented hurler. When you look at it all over the field, I think he is a brilliant player. Another rumour that I was seeing online, Cathal Malone on Dara Fitz. He doesn't normally score. You wouldn't.
I think Fitzy's too fast for him. The other one as well, if we were talking about this, Clare, who, like, if you're in Brian Lohan's shoes, who do you think is Clare's biggest threats to Cork? What avenue are you going down to try and hurt Cork?
Down the middle, I think. I think Rob, don't get me wrong, Rob Downey and Owen Downey have been fantastic this year. But the inexperience is still there. Owen Downey is just out of under 20. And I just feel like the occasion might be something that gets to Owen in this one. So I do think this is an opportunity for Shane O'Donnell and Mark Rogers to run at this Cork defence.
I think there'd be a curveball in there, man. I think there'd be a curveball of potentially throwing a Peter Duggan in there and launching a few high ones in and testing out the mettle of Owen Downey and Patrick Collins right from the start. I think that's a real curveball. Because if Cork make a mistake early in the game that leads to a goal, and there's a real feeling of, like, for God's sake, around the Cork fans, it could feel catastrophic. I would potentially be taking a little gamble on that because Clare need a good start. There's no question about it. What Cork is like right now, they're a bit like a runaway train in terms of, like, if Cork get the run on you, good night. You're not beating Cork once they get the leg up on you. You're not pulling them back. They can really put a beating on you if they get a good start. So Clare need to make the good start. And then if Clare make the good start, then we're in for a real battle. And the thing is I think Clare have been pretty laboured for the most part of the championship. I haven't been too impressed with them. Even in the game against Kilkenny, I wasn't that impressed with them. They got the job done eventually, but I think it's massively helped by the fact that Kilkenny scored 1-6 in the second half, which is just not good enough at this level. And I just think if you're talking pound for pound, who's been more impressive, by far it's been Cork. But Clare have found a way to win in more or less every game that they've played, bar the Limerick games. So it's dangerous. So the two final questions. How does each side win? And then obviously we'll come to the prediction. So starting with the Rebels, how do Cork win this final?
I think one of the things, their shooting accuracy has to be high. Take it away from the defence for a bit. Like, their average shooting accuracy throughout all the games this season in the championship has been 67%. And I know we're going towards football last week, but Donegal's was around the same level, if higher, on average, going to the semi-final against Galway. And in the second half, they panicked. Mm-hmm. So I think Cork need to calm it down in the second half, take the right shot options. I was saying this to Aaron as well. I don't think, like, Cork aren't as inexperienced in Croke Park as the Donegal footballers are. But it's still something that at the back of the minds the players have to think about as well. They have to keep up that same intensity throughout the whole 70 minutes as well. And the defence as well, they need to stop Clare's runners at pace. They need to reduce the amount of chances. They need to stop conceding silly frees inside a scoreable distance, because Mark Rogers or Aidan McCarthy or Tony Kelly, whoever's over the ball, is going to put it over the bar. So Cork cannot concede stupid frees inside the 45 or between the 45 and the 65 or even around the middle of the pitch, because Clare are going to convert them. So this is a big one to note as well. And it will be interesting with the referee as well, Johnny Murphy, because I've been looking through the games that they've done. Like he's done 3 Clare games this year, and Clare have won every single one of them in 2024 League and Championship. He's done 1 Cork game in the League against Kilkenny, and they lost. So it might be an omen that Clare. I know, like, Johnny Murphy's style is to give pernickety frees. So Cork have to be very, very careful at their tackling as well. So because he's going to give it. So that's another thing that needs to go as well. And one final point on Cork: it will be very interesting to see Patrick Collins' puckouts. Me and you both seen it. We were right in line with it. In the pressure situations against Limerick, he decides to go short and they take it back. Will he do the same in this final? If he does, he has to be very smart on it. So it'll be very interesting to see.
Certainly, he definitely has to have nerves of steel. Personally, I agree with you. I think if Cork are going to win this game, they have to get a good start. No question about it. Because if you're in the sense of, like, you're a team that has had a lot of heartbreak, but you're riding off of hope as well. Like, there is a real feeling of hope around Cork that, like, finally this is the team that's going to bring it back to Cork, bring Liam back. And what can happen when you feel like such hope is that if you get a bad start and if Clare get a goal, there can be a sense of, like, oh no. Like, so Cork need to settle the nerves down quickly, need to get into their stride. No yellow cards early for the defenders. Do not pick up a stupid yellow card, because Clare will run at you. Shane O'Donnell will run at you, Aidan McCarthy will run at you, Ian Galvin will run at you, and suddenly you could pick up a second yellow card, because it's very difficult to not foul those lads. They don't play the same as Limerick. Limerick shoot from a lot further out usually than Clare do. Clare run at you a lot more than Limerick do. I think the next thing as well is they need to isolate Dara Fitz in a battle that he's going to win. Try keep him away from Ryan Taylor, because I actually think Taylor is a good matchup for him. Let Dara Fitz do his stuff. I think definitely target goals the same way that they did in the first half against Limerick in the Munster Championship. If you get a chance, go for it. Alan Connolly, try get him as close to the goal as possible. Brian Hayes, try keep him away from Adam Hogan, but then hit him with the puckouts the same way that Patrick Collins did against Limerick in the semi-final. And then Hoggy needs to nail every free that he gets. And the key thing about it is Pat Ryan needs to keep the players' feet on the ground. No matter what the Cork fans are singing about, keep your feet on the ground. Let it be the background noise. Let it be the 16th man when Cork are winning. Let it be the 16th man when Cork are on top. But when Clare are on top, as they will be, block it out. The same way that you did in the Munster Championship when you bounce back to beat Limerick ultimately. Keep that out the mind. And then for Clare, what I think the path to victory for Clare is put Adam Hogan on Brian Hayes. That's one of the key things initially. Put Adam Hogan on Brian Hayes, put Cleary on Alan Connolly, and put Conor Lean on Patrick Horgan. They're good stylistic matchups. Then put David McInerney on Shane Barrett. He has been outstanding this year. Man of the match in the semi-final against Kilkenny. Do not trust that Conlon can play sweeper and mark Shane Barrett at the same time. Shane Barrett needs to be watched and tailed for the whole game. Then give Ryan Taylor a crack, in my opinion. Put him in there from the start, because his impact on this Clare team is absolutely huge. Get the best out of Tony Kelly, whatever way you think it is. If you think it's putting him on Tim O'Mahony, so Tim might give him more space. If you think it's putting him centre forward, so he might be able to mess with Rob Downey. Do whatever you think it is to get Tony Kelly at his best. And then feed that ball into Shane O'Donnell as fast as you can. And test Owen Downey and Patrick Collins' mettle with some high ball in on top of Peter Duggan early. That's what I would be saying. And again, keep up with the frees. Nail every free that Cork get. And no matter what, just be the panto villains. Because Cork have this desperation to just grab the Liam McCarthy. And if Clare can just be the not so fast, the tension can kind of build. And it really does test the mettle of players. It really, really does. So I think more or less, roughly, that's the paths to victory for both of those teams. The key things are who gets a good start, who scores the first goal, who gets their matchups right. So with all that said, my final question to you, Matthew Hurley. All-Ireland Senior Hurling Championship Final 2024. Cork versus Clare. Your answer and your reason why in about 90 seconds.
Some people might call me biased to this. I'm going with Cork. But I'm not going as comprehensively as our good friend Dan said at 7 points. I'm going to go for 1 point. It's going to be tight throughout the whole game. I think Clare will lead at halftime, but Cork will find something in them in the second half to grind their way back into the game. And I'm expecting maybe 2 goals each from either side. But in the end, I'm going to go for a Cork victory. It's going to be tight, as I said, but I just have that feeling that Cork are going to do it. They're going to do it by a point. Clare will put it up to them all the way. I'm sure they'll produce their best performance of the year by far. But I feel like Cork will do enough to get the Liam McCarthy for the first time at least since 2005.
Interesting. Would you believe that is the exact prediction I gave on the GA hour with Dan Casey? I said Cork by 1, and Dan said that his heart won't survive if it's Cork by 1 point in this All-Ireland final. I actually am sticking with my prediction. Cork by 1. I think that Cork, like Pat Ryan needs to keep their feet on the ground. I think the game will go this way, but I could be completely wrong. I think Cork will get a good start, hit a few early points, because Clare were slow starting against Kilkenny in the semi-final. I think that will happen again. Then I think Clare will get a goal close enough to half-time and go in no more than 1 point behind at the break. Clare will start well in the second half, but I think Cork will hit around the 45th minute. They'll hit a big patch where they'll land over some huge scores, and then maybe a second goal in the final quarter and kick on for home. I think they'll just about shade it. Like, I mean, unbearable anxiety going into the final few moments. And I think there'll be some scary ones. But I think Cork will get over the line and win their first All-Ireland Hurling Championship since 2005. This is going to be an epic All-Ireland Hurling Final. You can just feel it. There's something different about this one. It will either be Clare's first All-Ireland Hurling title since 2013 or Cork's first All-Ireland Hurling title since 2005. Who will win? Tune in 100% Sunday in Croke Park, and then, of course, tune in to the weekend review show here on Clare immediately after. My name is Seamus Brady. I've been joined by Matthew Hurley. Thank you so much to anybody who put a comment in on the show. Enjoy the All-Ireland Hurling Final. Best of luck to both teams involved. May the best team win. Until the next one, guys, take care.